Don't worry about that little guy. All right, so today we're going to talk about a little bit of the safety aspect when it comes to repairing these Jeeps. So one of the biggest things and one of the biggest comments that I get all the time is that's not safe, or that's not going to be safe, or how's that going to react in an accident, things of that nature. And I kind of wanted to go over some of the safety aspects of things while I have a Jeep in here that perfectly demonstrates those safety aspects. So in the short that I posted a couple days ago, you guys saw that the frame on this Jeep was cracked. And the reason that the Jeep frame was cracked was obviously a good majority of it is because of the rust and the rot and everything else that goes on with these. But the secondary thing that happens is when these Jeeps are repaired improperly and a certain span of the frame is repaired, and I can actually show you guys right here. So on this side of the frame, let's see if we can get a better look at it here. I don't know if there's enough light in there, but right here is where this repair stops. And then back here is where this repair stops. Now that leaves this full span of frame here and this full span of frame here. That is now left to do what it wants to do. Now that you've strengthened this center section here, what tends to happen is this section stays rigid and doesn't move at all, and it causes a crack right in here, right at that mark right there. And it can also cause cracks back here. Now this one is horribly rotted. So, I mean, a crack really isn't going to be that big of a deal. But having that structural integrity increased in the center, you lose the structural integrity right there as well as right there. So you'll end up having tons and tons of issues with frame cracking. Now, again, this section here is mostly all rust and rot, but you can see there's a strength area right here, but it's not tied in properly to the lower control arm mount. So being that it's not tied in properly to the lower control arm mount, what's going to happen is if you're in a panic stop and you hit the brakes with this thing, because of the way that this is, this lower control arm mount is going to break right off the frame. And when it breaks off the frame, you're going to have this entire front axle just send itself right under the vehicle, and that's a safety concern. Now, let's get into the safety of the actual frame repair itself. So we can come over to this side and I can show you. Okay, now we come over to this side and I can show you that the repair now goes from the front of the lower control arm mount. It is properly tied in to the lower control arm mount, which is then tied into our repair panel, which then extends all the way back and up to the rear lower spring bucket, including replacing the rear lower control arms. So now this is a huge, huge upgrade. And yes, it strengthens the frame. Now, a lot of people might say that, hey, now that you put that nice long piece in there, that frame is way stronger than it used to be. And that is absolutely true. Now, these Jeeps, when it comes to crumple zones and safety and all that stuff, the crumple zone on these Wranglers is right here. And you can see that this is tied in with a small bar right there. And then back here, you can't really see it from here, and I can't really show you all that well. But there's a section of the frame that is almost already pre-crimped, so that when it takes a frontal impact, that portion of the frame will actually buckle and stop everything from happening. So that is one of the only pieces that are not made by a lot of manufacturers to replace on the frame, is from here to about back here, because that is technically the crumple zone. And that zone, if you strengthen that, you can cause all sorts of problems. So we obviously don't repair that section, and if that section is bad, we'll refuse the Jeep, or it, basically needs a whole new frame. So as far as the safety aspect of thing goes, us strengthening the frame from the front lower control arm mount all the way to the rear lower control arm mount actually helps strengthen the entire frame and prevents any kind of cracking or breaking or anything of that nature. And it also prevents what could potentially happen if you were just repairing that center section right there. Because that, like I said before, just doing this center section is going to put undue stress where that ends. So it's going to crack here, it's going to crack here. And on several Jeeps that I've done, that has been the case. And I mean, you can see how poorly this thing was repaired at one point in time. So that's terrible. That's unfortunate. It's super dangerous. So now we are going to go ahead and get this side done because obviously we have a bit of a problem there. Then we're going to get the spring buckets done, and then we have yet another rough country lift to put in this Jeep. So it's going to be a nice unit when it's done. We're going to replace the shocks, replace that, replace everything. And again, going with the safety issues, this Jeep is still running its original factory shocks. You can still see the Mopar sticker hiding back there. And these are factory original shocks. So probably a good time to replace them to prevent all the death wobble issues. And we'll get this frame super safe, get everything back together the way it's supposed to be, get it back to our customer, and know that no matter what, this thing is going to A, pass a state safety inspection for whichever state that you want to run an inspection in. 3 of the hardest ones are New York, New Hampshire, and Massachusetts, and we have passed with flying colors the inspections in all 3 of those states. So, when you guys are curious if these things are safe, and I've had one comment the other day that absolutely drove me up a wall, was adamant that this was not safe and it was not going to pass inspection and it was a hack job and it was, you know, all this crazy stuff was being spewed about how this is a stopgap measure and this is not the right fix for this job and whatever. Well, we passed New York State Safety Inspection, we passed Massachusetts State Safety Inspection, we've passed New Hampshire State Inspection, and those are 3 of the worst states in the country when it comes to vehicular inspection. They will literally fail you if you have a hole in a fender. I mean, it's bad. So for them to pass this frame repair says something about this frame repair. It is a very safe option, and I highly recommend that if you have an issue with your frame, do not, and this is, I cannot stress to you the importance of this, do not take this thing to a backyard welder, a backyard mechanic, or even a good welder, skilled welder, who has never done one of these before. They may be welding the frames back together with them crooked. They might be welding these things back together with the frame broken and not in the correct position. There are certain aspects of this job that need to be taken to an extent to where everything's straightened back out again, and you make sure that you have everything right, because if you don't have everything right, this thing could go down the road sideways. It could have all sorts of suspension and steering issues and everything else. So you really need to find someone in your area. And if you're not in my area, find somebody local in your area, or even shoot me an email and let me know, hey, listen, I need to find somebody in my area to do this properly. Because I can't tell you how many times over and over again we see these issues with these Jeeps that come in here that have been repaired before, and it's caused further damage because of the repair. So again, remember, you're on the road with these things. They're a 4,000-pound brick running down the highway. You have the potential of getting hurt, and you have the potential of hurting someone else. So if your frame is rotted, please, please, please get it repaired correctly. So on that note, I'll probably bring you guys back and show you the rest of the frame once it's done. Maybe we'll talk a little bit more about some other safety aspects of these things if something else happens to pop into my head. So let's get to it. Okay, so now that we got all the bad juju off of this thing, you can really kind of see how bad it was under the repair. So all that stuff had to be cut out, all that horrible repair. And the worst part about it is, I didn't even realize, but the welds were so poor that you can see moisture migrated down into the actual control arm mount here. Let's see if I can get you a little bit more light on the subject. But it migrated down onto that control arm support and started rotting that away. So luckily we caught it before it was structurally, messed up. But even in here, you can see how bad the underneath side of that repair was, and you can truly see how poor those welds were. So that wasn't doing much of anything other than causing more problems than it was worth. But we got the whole frame cut out. All the bad stuff, that patch is all cut out. The whole back section's cut out. The control arm mount back here is all cut out, and everything is good to go. So now we're going to go ahead and we're going to put the new piece in, and let you guys see. I wish I had Matt here today so that he could film for me, but we're going to introduce him too on the channel. But anyhow, we're going to get the pieces in. I'll show you how this stuff is all going to fit together. Actually, as a matter of fact, I can grab one piece now. So we have these neat little pieces provided by Safety Cap. those guys right there, they're actually contoured to this section right here. They're contoured to that so that it covers up all of the badness. And all we got to do is weld those in there, and that'll tie the skid plate, or tie the lower control arm mount in. It'll tie it into the body mount, and then ultimately it'll tie it into the rest of the frame rail that we do down there. So these are a nice little addition from Safety Cap to fix this area. So look much better. Okay, so here's that very same side. Probably 2 seconds later for you, but it's like 3.5, 4 hours later for me. And you can see now we got the lower control arm tied in to the upper part of the frame, which is tied into the body mount, which is tied into the center section. And then we go ahead and we weld the skid, or the side steps back on. There's the center body mount welded back in place where it's supposed to be. And then all the way back to here. And then the upper spring buckets, which were also replaced because they were falling apart. And now we get to shoot everything with paint and primer. Primer and paint, however you want to do that. I would suggest doing the primer first and then the paint. Okay, so now it's all done, painted all the way up. We got the Rough Country kit installed, and I think it looks pretty good. You guys can be the judge, but I think Matt and I did an amazing job on this one. And oh yeah, by the way, where's that guy?
Yo,
there he is.
What's up, everybody?
Welcome, Matt. This is the new guy to Morfab Industries. He's kicking ass so far, so a lot of this hard work is his. But we're getting these things done. We got our spacers in for the lift kit. The rear section's done. You guys saw that earlier in the video. You see how good it looks now. Everything's all tied in perfectly like it should be. It runs all the way back here. And then maybe we'll get a shot of this too. Okay, so I hope you guys can kind of get an idea of what it means to do these things safely and what you actually have to do as far as, like, you know, the work you have to put in to make these things 100% safe. If you just go ahead and patch the little sections that you think you need to patch that are bad, you're going to have a problem. And I get it. I understand that. You know what? This repair is actually pretty expensive. I'm not going to lie about that. It's not an easy repair. It takes a lot of time, and it's expensive. So you might be quick to just go ahead and put a quick patch on there, but that quick patch could be causing a lot of safety issues. And I know I've been harping on that this entire time, and it's funny that those things are called safety caps, but they're called that for a reason because, you know, you really need to make sure that these things are safe. They can't go out the door and have somebody kill themselves or get hurt or, you know, hurt somebody else. And it's really, really super critical that all this stuff is done correctly. So do yourself a favor. If you own one of these TJs and you have frame issues and you have some rusty spots, either reach out to me. I'll put my email down below. You can find me all over the place. I'm on every social media app that's out there. You can find me. You can email me. And even if you just need to ask advice, if you're nowhere near Connecticut, maybe I can help you out and kind of put you in a direction of somebody that knows what they're doing and can help you out and get you safely back on the road. So, hope you guys enjoyed this. I think what's going to be a relatively quick video for me. I just kind of wanted to give you guys an idea of the different safety aspects since I see it in my comments so much. You know, I figured I might as well address it. But that is it for this one. I'll see you guys on the next one. Probably another welder review. I know you guys are sick of them. But I keep getting them sent to me. And they're worth reviewing. So we'll see what happens on that one. But have a good night, everybody. And we'll see you on the next one. Have a good night.